Welcome to Hockey Whiz Talks podcast. In this podcast, I'll be talking about one move every Western Conference team should make. In this podcast, I'll be talking about one move every Western Conference NHL team needs to make before training camp starts. Central Division teams. With over $21 million in cap space and a young core led by Connor Bedard, the Blackhawks are in prime position to make a strategic addition. One move that stands out is trading for Boston Bruins forward Pavel Zacha. Zacha can play both center and wing, offering flexibility in line combinations. His style of play could complement Bedard's scoring instincts, especially on a line together. Zacha is signed through the 26-27 season at $4.75 million AAV, so he's not just a rental. He had 47 points last season, with 57 and 59 in the prior 2 years, which is solid numbers for a secondary scorer. Zacha would add a proven NHL forward without sacrificing long-term flexibility. His experience and two-way play could help insulate Bedard and Nazar as they grow into leadership roles. Chicago can afford him without jeopardizing future signings or extensions. It would not be cheap to acquire Zacha though. Boston is looking for a high draft pick along with a mid-level prospect like Paul Ledwinski or Gavin Hayes. This gives Boston future assets for the rebuild while Chicago adds a versatile, cost-controlled top 6 forward to support Bedard. While the Avalanche have made splashy additions, including adding Brent Burns, locking up Mackenzie Blackwood, and adding Martin Necas in the deal for Mikko Rantanen, their next critical move should be locking up Martin Necas to a long-term extension before his contract year. Colorado lost Mikko Rantanen in a high-profile trade after failing to extend him in time. Necas is now in a similar spot, and Colorado needs to get a long-term extension done to avoid another Rantanen situation. With the salary cap rising, Necas could demand north of $10 million if he posts a point per game season. Signing him now could save millions, and it keeps Necas alongside McKinnon, Makar, and Taves, preserving a dynamic core. In 24-25, Necas scored 71 points in 79 games, demonstrating elite zone entry and puck movement on the power play, and was a versatile winger on the top line with top line upside and penalty kill ability. A projected extension for Necas would be front-loaded with signing bonuses and a limited no-trade clause. The contract could see Necas making anywhere from $8.5 million to $9.25 million AAV over the next 7 years. Locking up Necas right now should be the Avalanche's top priority, so they don't have any contract drama lingering on during the season like last season. It sounds shocking, but there's growing momentum behind the idea that Dallas might trade star winger Jason Robertson this summer. With big raises kicking in for Jake Ottinger, Wyatt Johnson, and Mikko Rantanen, Dallas has less than $1 million in cap space. Robertson has 1 year left on a contract which pays him $7.75 million AAV before becoming a RFA. A long-term extension could exceed $10 million AAV. Defenseman Thomas Harley also needs a new contract, and insiders believe that Dallas may prioritize keeping him. A team that has been rumored to be interested in Robertson is the Ottawa Senators, who want a true star to elevate their young core. In exchange for Jason Robertson, Ottawa would send Drake Batherson, Shane Pinto, and a 2026 second-round pick to Dallas. This is a win-win trade for both sides. For Dallas to get 2 NHL caliber players in Batherson and Pinto, who can immediately slot into their top 9, and they save $1.5 million in cap space. Additionally, Dallas avoids a massive extension for Robertson and frees up cap space for a Thomas Harley extension. For Ottawa, Robertson immediately slots into the top line alongside Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk, and it signifies a win-now mentality for Ottawa. This type of strategic move allows Dallas to remain a contender for much longer while some of their core players age. With $22.6 million in cap space and the buyout penalties for Zach Parise and Ryan Suter finally behind them, the Minnesota Wild are poised to reshape their roster. The most impactful move could be a sign-in trade involving Marco Rossi. Rossi is currently in a contract stalemate with the Wild. He is an RFA and is reportedly far apart from a deal with Minnesota. Coming off a career-best 60-point season, Rossi's trade value is at its peak. Minnesota lacks a true number one center to complement Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy. A sign-in trade ensures Minnesota controls the return rather than settling for draft compensation if he gets offer sheeted. A Rossi deal could bring back a center on a manageable contract, a top 6 upgrade which helps the Wild break their first round playoff ceiling. With Kaprizov's next contract looming, building a contending core is very essential. The Calgary Flames are one of the front runners to land Marco Rossi. They have a young core and want a number one center to replace Nazem Kadri after he is dealt. The Flames have $15.41 million in cap space, the 5th most in the league, and would be able to give Rossi the contract he desires. Calgary has high-end prospects and NHL-ready players that could help Minnesota replace Rossi, depending on what they value more as part of a deal. A package centered around Yegor Sharangovich plus a mid-level prospect like Samuel Honzek and a 2027 second-round pick should be enough to get the deal done. Yegor Sharangovich is already locked up long-term, can play all 3 forward positions, and would give Minnesota flexibility and options up front. The addition of Marco Rossi would give Calgary a top 6 center with upside, while Minnesota gets size, skill, and future flexibility. And now a word from our sponsor. Check out my scouting blog at HockeyWiz777scouting.com. Listen to my scouting blog podcast on podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/HockeyWiz777scouting. If the Nashville Predators want to make one bold, transformative move this offseason, it should be trading Jonathan Marchessault to a contender. Marchessault's production plummeted from 42 goals in Vegas the season before to just 21 goals in Nashville last season. He is on a 5-year deal with $5.5 million AAV with a no movement clause, but could waive it to chase another Stanley Cup. Nashville finished with the 3rd worst record in the league, despite signing Marchessault, Stamkos, and Shea. GM Barry Trotz needs to reallocate cap space and get younger. Marchessault is the most tradable of their expensive veterans, due to his $5.5 million AAV cap hit. Trading Marchessault clears cap space to re-sign Luke Evangelista and invest in their youth. It would also signify a pivot towards a retool. Marchessault, if made available, is a player that would be in high demand. He is a proven goal scorer with playoff experience. The Toronto Maple Leafs are a team who would be very interested in adding Jonathan Marchessault after losing Mitch Marner, although Marchessault isn't going to produce nearly as much as Marner in the regular season. He is a playoff-tested winger who won the Conn Smythe in 2022. In exchange for Marchessault, Toronto could offer Nick Robertson, who is an RFA, Calle Jarnkrok, who is a familiar face in Nashville, and a 2027 second-round pick. This trade works for both teams because it would give Toronto a proven winger to slot in on the first or second line at a reasonable cost for the next 4 years. With Nashville, they get Nick Robertson, a young forward with upside, Calle Jarnkrok, a versatile veteran, and a draft pick to help replenish the draft capital. This move is unlikely to happen, but if there was a Predator player who had to be moved, it would be Marchessault. One smart move the St. Louis Blues should make this offseason is trade Jordan Kyrou. And although the St. Louis Blues appear willing to trade him, they aren't desperate to do so. A team that has been very interested in acquiring Jordan Kyrou is the Montreal Canadiens. In exchange for Kyrou, St. Louis would get Mike Matheson, Owen Beck, a second-round pick in 2026, and a 2028 first-round pick. Shedding Kyrou's $8.125 million cap hit opens space to re-sign Jimmy Snuggerud, Dalibor Dvorsky, and others. St. Louis adds Michael Matheson, a mobile top-pair defenseman who fills a major need. Owen Beck, a high upside to a thin center prospect pool, and 2 draft picks to help replenish a depleted prospect pool. Kyrou has averaged 70 plus points over the past 3 seasons and brings dynamic offense. Kyrou is reportedly open to a fresh start in Montreal and may waive his no-trade clause. At 27, he fits Montreal's timeline and is locked in through 2031. For St. Louis, trading Kyrou would open up opportunities for younger wingers on the team. Lawson Krause's name is surfacing in trade rumors again, and this time, it's Utah that might be ready to move on from him. Insiders have hinted that Lawson Krause could be available as the Mammoth look to free up cap space for bigger moves. Krause carries a $4.3 million AAV through 2027, and Utah may need room for extensions or marquee signings. Krause's production declined to just 18 points in 81 games last season, a steep drop-off from 3 straight 20-goal campaigns. He was benched in February of last season, signifying a possible friction or shift in team priorities. Krause is a 6'4", 214-pound winger who plays a 200-foot game, hits hard, and can contribute on both special teams. For a playoff-bound team needing physicality and depth scoring, he would be a compelling target, especially if Utah retains salary. There are a host of teams who would be interested in adding him, especially if Utah does retain some salary. The Toronto Maple Leafs are a team that are really looking to add some size and grit to their bottom 6, and they could be a team that acquires him. Toronto can offer a package which includes Bobby McMahon and a 2027 third-round pick. Utah would retain 50% of Krause's contract. Toronto needs size and physicality in their bottom 6. Krause fits the DNA shift that Berube is pushing for. By trading Krause, Utah frees up cap space, adds 2 NHL caliber players, and opens up a roster spot for young forwards like Cheech Iginla. With Gabriel Velarde locked up long-term and Connor Hellebuck and Mark Scheifele already committed, the Jets' next priority should be a contract extension for Kyle Connor before he hits unrestricted free agency next summer. Connor posted a career-best 97 points last season and ranks top 5 in Jets history for points per game. He's the cornerstone of Winnipeg's top line alongside Velarde and Scheifele, with the cap rising to $95.5 million this season and projected to hit $104 million in 26-27. Locking him up now could be a bargain later. The Jets hope to lock up Kyle Connor to a long-term contract that is similar to deals like Jake Gunsel, an 8-year contract worth $9.5 million AAV. Locking up Connor keeps Winnipeg's top line intact through the decade, signifying stability and commitment to contending, and avoids a bidding war in free agency. Check out my hockey blog at hockeywiztalkshockey.blogspot.com. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at hockeywiz777. Pacific Division teams. Despite a flurry of offseason activity, trading for Chris Kreider, signing Mikael Granlund, and moving on from both Trevor Zegras and John Gibson, the Ducks have yet to lock down one of their most important young pieces in Mason McTavish, a 22-year-old center who led the team in goals last season. At just 22, McTavish is entering his prime and could be the next Paul Kariya or Teemu Selanne type figure for the franchise. He's an RFA, and insiders say he could be available for trade amid stalled negotiations. With over $21 million in cap space, Anaheim can easily match any offer that a team puts out if they try to steal him away. A long-term contract for McTavish would look similar to fellow Anaheim Duck Troy Terry, who signed a 7-year deal worth a total of $49 million. A projected contract for McTavish would see him making between $6.5 million to $7.25 million AAV over the next 6 to 7 years. This would secure McTavish through his prime and signals that Anaheim is serious about building around its young core. The move solidifies the top 6 with Karlsson, Gauthier, Kreider, Granlund, Terry, and McTavish, and aligns with the Ducks' pivot from a rebuild team to a playoff push. After missing the playoffs for the third straight season, the Calgary Flames are sitting on a stockpile of draft capital with over $15 million in cap space. There are many different moves they could make before the season, but the one rumor floating around this offseason that doesn't go away has been Calgary moving on from center Nazem Kadri, who makes $7 million AAV through the 28-29 season. Kadri does control his fate until 2026, as he has a no-move clause, and there has been no indication that he wants out. But should Calgary trade him, since he has a no-move clause, he would have to approve the transaction. Kadri led Calgary in scoring 2 years in a row, including a career-high 35 goals last season, so trading him while his value is high makes total sense. Although trading Kadri would create a massive hole at center, there are moves they could make in order to replace him. The team acquiring Kadri most likely would be a contender, thus Calgary would need to retain a portion of his salary. Montreal is a team that has been rumored to be after Kadri, and it would likely cost them Kirby Dach and a 2026 first-round pick to get the deal done. The price might seem high, but it's because Calgary would need to retain 35% of Kadri's contract to get the deal done. To be clear, Calgary is not in a rush to trade Kadri, but should a trade package like this come along, it would be impossible to turn down. The Edmonton Oilers are currently exploring a multitude of ways to improve their roster, including upgrading their goaltending situation. One possible trade scenario for Edmonton is to acquire Elvis Merzlikins and Boone Jenner from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Elvis Merzlikins has 3 years left on his contract at $5.4 million AAV. He is coming off a season where he was 26, 21, and 5 with a 3.18 GAA and .892 save percentage. Boone Jenner has been the captain and the longest tenured Blue Jackets player, consistently scoring 20-plus goals and plays with grit and leadership. Merzlikins has requested a trade in the past and would welcome a fresh start elsewhere. In fact, Columbus has even considered buying him out. Boone Jenner is not on the trade block, and Columbus has no intentions on moving him. However, Edmonton could offer a trade package that is impossible to turn down. Edmonton would acquire Elvis Merzlikins and Boone Jenner in exchange for Stuart Skinner, Vasily Podkolzin, a 2027 first-round pick, and a conditional 2028 second-round pick. Columbus would have to retain 50% of Merzlikins' contract to make the deal work. This gives Edmonton a veteran center in Boone Jenner to play behind McDavid and Draisaitl, plus a goalie with upside who could have a bounce-back year, while Columbus gets cap relief, youth, and picks. The LA Kings are actively working to extend Adrian Kempe, who is entering the final year of his 4-year, $22 million deal. GM Ken Holland has made it clear that Kempe is the priority. Talks with his agent JP Barry have begun, and both sides reportedly want to get a deal done. Kempe has become one of the leaders of this LA Kings squad as Kopitar and Doughty age. He led the team in scoring last season with 35 goals and 73 points in 81 games, and has been over a point per game in his career during the playoffs. Winger contracts are inflating. Nikolai Ehlers just signed for $8.5 million AAV, and Kempe's deal should shatter that. Extending Kempe signifies a desire to remain competitive and would avoid him from becoming a free agent next season. LA has over $27 million available for the 26-27 season, so they can afford it. Kempe is reportedly asking for around $10 million. Although he isn't likely to get that, a contract for Kempe would likely see him making around $9 million AAV over the next 7 to 8 years. One of the smartest moves the San Jose Sharks could make is trade for the contract of Carey Price. Carey Price's contract carries a $10.5 million cap hit through the 25-26 season, but he hasn't played a game since 2022 due to injury. This makes his deal a prime candidate for long-term IR, which teams like San Jose can also leverage to reach the cap floor while gaining assets. The Sharks are rebuilding and have the room to absorb dead cap. Montreal would likely have to attach draft picks and prospects to offload Price's deal. Well, you ask, why would Montreal want to give up picks and prospects to unload his contract? Well, Price is due $5.5 million in signing bonus in September of 2025. Most insiders believe a trade can only happen after the bonus has been paid, as no team wants to foot that bill. Some rumors suggest Montreal may already have a gentleman's agreement in place with San Jose. San Jose would receive Carey Price's contract along with a 2026 second-round pick and a prospect, while Montreal would receive future considerations. This kind of deal helps Montreal clear up cap space, and it gives San Jose valuable assets for simply using their financial flexibility. With the Seattle Kraken retooling after missing the playoffs in 2024-25, one impactful move they could make is to trade Jared McCann, who was their top goal scorer, while his value remains high. McCann scored 22 plus goals in each of his 4 seasons with Seattle, including a 40-goal campaign in 22-23. McCann turns 30 next May and is still in his prime. He is signed through 2026 at a reasonable $5 million AAV. A team like the New Jersey Devils might be interested in adding McCann. In exchange for McCann, the Devils would have to trade their 2026 first-round pick, Andre Palat, for salary reasons, and a conditional 2028 second-round pick. This gives Seattle future assets while adding a veteran in Andre Palat with playoff experience to a Kraken team, who could surprise some people. This move would signify a shift from veteran reliance to youth-driven growth, and could open up opportunities for Seattle to trade away other veterans like Jordan Eberle. Listen to Hockey West Talks podcast on Podbean and Spotify. Check out my travel channel at youtube.com/HockeyWestTravels. With just $3.27 million in cap space and a roster crunch, Vancouver may need to move players to unlock flexibility or upgrade key positions. They already traded Dakota Joshua to Toronto and Arthur Sivils to Pittsburgh, so I'm sure there are more moves coming. The Canucks officially placed Vel Pronak on the trade block just before his full no-move clause kicked in on July 1st. With a $7.25 million cap hit and 7 years left on his deal, Vancouver is reportedly shopping him in order to acquire a top 6 center without sacrificing top prospects like Tom Wallinder or Jonathan Lekkerimäki. Pronak is easily Vancouver's most tradable asset. He's logged top pair minutes alongside Quinn Hughes, and that boosts his value. Moving Pronak clears $7.25 million in cap space, which gives Vancouver room to make a move for a 2C. With Wallinder, Mancini, and Brzezinski emerging, the Canucks feel like they can absorb the loss. A team that would be interested in acquiring Pronak is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus has the cap space to absorb Pronak's salary, and their blue line could really use an upgrade. In exchange for Pronak, the Canucks acquire BC native Kent Johnson in a 1-to-1 trade. This gives Vancouver a cost-controlled forward with top 6 upside, while Columbus gets a proven top 4 right D to anchor their rebuild. With Alex Pietrangelo likely out the season due to injury, Vegas has a glaring hole on the right side of their defense. Enter Erik Karlsson, an offensive dynamo reportedly who was on the trade block in Pittsburgh. Erik Karlsson scored 53 points last season with Pittsburgh, including 42 assists. He is ideal for quarterbacking the power play. The 3-time Norris Trophy winner has playoff experience, but with Vegas cap strapped, Pittsburgh will need to retain 50% of his $10 million AAV. Since Pittsburgh isn't looking for NHL-ready players in a return package, something centered around Kaden Korczak, a defensive prospect, Jacob Brabenec, a top 4 prospect, a 2026 second-round pick, and a conditional third-round pick should be enough to get the deal done. This gives Pittsburgh cap relief and future flexibility, while Vegas replaces Pietrangelo with a proven offensive defenseman. With Vegas, Karlsson could find new life and could have his best season since his Norris Trophy season with San Jose. On the other hand, it would set Pittsburgh on the path to completely rebuild. There is still a lot of time in between now and training camp, so there is still time for a big move or two to occur that drastically changes the landscape of the Western Conference. In my next podcast, I'll be taking an in-depth look at the Pacific Division.